Hi guys, and thank you so much for joining me. If you are new here, I'm Kat and I like to talk about true crime, conspiracies and all sorts of related things. In today's video, I want to talk to you about Porton Down, and this will be part 3 of the series. In this video in particular, I'm going to highlight any connections I found between Porton Down and the Madeleine Mccann investigation or the parents. So if you haven't watched part 1 and part 2 of the series of Porton Down, with the human experiments and everything going on there, and all the experiments carried out throughout the years, then I recommend you watch the first 2 parts first before watching this one. Otherwise, it might not make much sense to you. Okay, so let's get started, but before I do that, I just want to give you a quick disclaimer. All the information I give you in today's video is already found in the public domain. I also don't mean to be disrespectful to anyone I talk about in the video. The video is purely for educational and entertainment purposes. Thank you so much. Oh, I haven't done a Madeleine Mccann video in quite some time. Okay, anyway, let's get started. Yeah, by the way, I'm going to leave the link for the playlist with Madeleine Mccann and Porton Down as well in the description below. We know that Porton Down is a science park in Wiltshire, northeast of the village of Porton, near Salisbury. It homes 2 British government facilities. A site of the Ministry of Defence Science and Technology Lab, also known as DSTL, known for over 100 years as one of the UK's most secretive and controversial military research facilities, occupying 7,000 acres and a site of Public Health England. You could also think about Porton Down as the Area 51 of the UK, if you like. But Porton Down is also the home to other private and commercial science organizations and is expanding to attract other companies. Porton Down has a lot of companies established there, and believe me, when I say a lot, I really do mean a lot. Porton Science Park, PSP, is a state-of-the-art facility located over 10 hectares at the Porton Down Science Campus by the village of Porton. Then, we also have other scientific startups allowed to use buildings on the Porton Down campus from the mid-90s. Porton Down has been housing companies on Tetris Science Park, including Plowshare Innovations since 2005 and GW Pharmaceuticals. As of 2014, an expansion plan was predicted to create 2,000 jobs. Expansion started in 2016 with £9.5 million in funding from Wiltshire Council, Swindon and Wiltshire Local Enterprise Partnership and the European Regional Development Fund. Tetris Science Park, located on the Porton Down site, is a joint venture between 3 partners whose combined experience and expertise brings together a range of specialist and targeted business services for science businesses. These partners are the DSTL, the Defence Science and Technology Lab. In addition to accommodation, DSTL provides access to on-site services facilities, including specialist lab services. GWE Business West, a leading membership and economic development organization, and New Sarum Enterprises, a group of professionals providing access to a network of specialist service providers. Tetris Science Park provides 25,000 square feet of high quality lab, office and technical workspace in 4 main buildings. Now, hang on, because I know that it might seem a bit boring and a bit not connected, but I'm just getting there. I just want to point out the things which will lead me to what I'm going to say next. Current tenants at Porton Down range from DSTL spin-outs, for example Enigma Diagnostics, to small independent companies specializing in contract research and consultancy. Tetris also hosts the headquarters of GW Pharmaceuticals, whose cannabis-derived medicine Sativex received approval in North America and many European countries, including the UK, for the symptomatic relief of neuropathic pain in multiple sclerosis. Basically, this is starting to get interesting right here. So basically, as I just mentioned, DSTL spinouts. A company spinout, like the DSTL, is a division of companies or organizations that become independent businesses with assets, employees, intellectual property, technology, or existing products that are taken from the parent company, in this case from the DSTL. So even if it's a DSTL spinout, the basics and everything else is still taken from DSTL. Shareholders of the parent company, in this case DSTL, receive equivalent shares in the new company in order to compensate for the loss of equity in the original stocks. However, shareholders may then buy and sell stocks from either company independently. This potentially makes investment in the companies more attractive, as potential share purchasers can invest narrowly in the portion of the business they think will have the most growth. Many times the management team of the new company are from the same parent organization, in this case DSTL. Often a spin-off offers the opportunity for a division to be backed by the company, but not to be affected by the parent company's image or history, giving potential to take existing ideas that had been languishing in an old environment and help them grow in a new environment. Spin-offs also allow high-growth divisions, once separated from other low-growth divisions, to command higher valuation multiples. So I know that the explanation was a bit technical, but basically this is the definition of a company spin-off. Now, if you want to talk about it in general terms, I would say that this is how I see it, my vision, my opinion only. So DSTL is doing really stupid things, right? And they have a reputation not very likable, like for example all the experiments throughout the years that they've been doing in the name of defense. And we covered this in the previous videos on Porton Down series. So basically DSTL, they still want to carry on the ideas, let's say, but they can't be trusted in the public eye, right? So what they can do in this situation as a spin-off, they just create a new company, a spin-off of DSTL, and they take the same idea, which potentially they couldn't develop as DSTL because of their bad reputation, and they put this idea in the new company, because people, they might not know that this company is actually a spin-off from DSTL. The management still stays the same, right? So the big bosses, they are still the same bosses. The big bosses, they still know what they did in DSTL. However, for the general public, if you don't know that this is a DSTL spin-off, you will never know that it actually comes from DSTL, right? So it kind of washing the hands, but still carrying on. So plain and simple, when we talk about DSTL spin-offs, we can say that the newly formed company has the same management as DSTL, or the same directors, same ideas, just a new story. It's basically the same fish, a different color. But you know, I think that by now you already figured out why they are doing this. It's quite clever actually, and I'm quite sure they are not the only ones in this entire world doing that. Just a question, would you have known that Enigma Diagnostics, for example, is a DSTL spin-off if I wouldn't tell you that today? This is the purpose. If you don't know the parent company, you will never guess that the spin-off is coming from the same parent company. And that's how you go down the rabbit hole and you cannot get back out. Oh, but there are so many things to say about Enigma Diagnostics, and not only, but anyway, I'll keep that for later. Now, when I was researching the Porton Down companies, quite honestly guys, I took companies one by one, including looking at CEOs, directors and important people named for the companies. Needless to say, it took me more than weeks to look into this. Of course, I couldn't cover everything because there are just too many, but there are a few people connected to Porton Down and also connected to, you guess who, the McCann's Madeleine Mccann investigation. So, as this will be the last video on the Porton Down series, unless I get something which is hallelujah, as the last part I want to focus on this connection in particular. So, let's talk about, I think I already covered this in previous videos, Mr. Paul Weinberger. You've heard of him before, obviously. I have, you know that I already have a video focusing only on Weinberger and the Madeleine McCann connection, which is in the playlist focused only on the Madeleine McCann investigation. If you want to check that playlist out as well, I will put the link in the description below. Dr. Paul Weinberger and his wife, Jenny Catriona Weinberger, in 2007 were on holiday at the same times and dates with the McCanns when Madeleine went missing. Weinberger was the chief executive officer of Diaso, which made a variety of medical devices, and according to company's house, and I want to quote here, nature of business is research and experimental development on biotechnology. Both him and his wife were the sole directors until the company dissolved in 2019. Even more interesting is that Weinberger is a standing member of NICE, N-I-C-E, the National Institute for Clinical Excellence, and sits on their Diagnostics Advisory Committee. He also used to be the chairman of BIVDA, B-I-V-D-A, the British In Vitro Diagnostics Association, founded in 1992. This is quite interesting information regarding Madeleine McCann because, as we already know, she and her siblings were born by IVF. The McCanns have given very little information as to the details of the IVF or the hospital they had the IVFs in. They did move to Amsterdam in 2004 when Madeleine was 7 months old, after Gerry was seconded there. There they received another IVF treatment which resulted in Sean and Emily being born the next year in February. Before becoming the CEO of Diasolve, Weinberger for 2 years was the Chief Marketing Officer of Lumora Limited. Lumora Limited, which is located in Cambridgeshire, is, and I quote again, a successful provider of state-of-the-art molecular diagnostic products into both the clinical and non-clinical or industrial markets. Lumora's easy-to-deploy and use technology can be employed in fields as diverse as food safety testing and medical diagnostics. End of quote. The company was then sold to ERBA Diagnostics Mannheim in 2015. This followed shortly after an asset purchase by Roche Diagnostics, who acquired Lumora's proprietary nucleic acid heat elution purification technology. Roche Diagnostics, you probably heard of this before in my previous videos, is a diagnostic division of Hoffmann La Roche, which manufactures equipment and reagents for research and medical diagnostic applications. Internally, it's organized into 5 major business areas: Roche Applied Science, Roche Professional Diagnostics, Roche Diabetes Care, Roche Molecular Diagnostics, and Tissue Diagnostics. The main location for Roche Professional Diagnostics is in Rotkreuz, Switzerland, which is just 17 miles away from Zurich, where, you guessed it right, Philip Edmonds lived, or at least lived at the time of Madeleine's disappearance, according to his LinkedIn profile. Whilst being the Chief Marketing Officer of Lumora, Weinberger's role was to promote the company's IVF techniques and diagnostics in partnership with major pharmaceutical GKN. Lumora is based at Porton Down. For 9 years before Lumora, Weinberger was with Roche Diagnostics, the world's largest diagnostics company. Him and his wife appear to have or had a house in Newton Stewart, southern Scotland. Weinberger's line of work was very similar to Gerry McCann's career path. Now, the curious thing about the Weinberger couple actually, is that Jenny Weinberger was one of the few people at the Ocean Club the week of Madeleine's disappearance who reported possible suspect abductors. In 2007, Paul Weinberger worked for Enigma Diagnostics, which was a private company, but it was explicitly founded in 2004 as a joint venture between the UK government and venture capitalist Porton Capital Technology Fund, based in the top secret Defense Science and Technology Lab at Porton Down, the DSTL. Enigma Diagnostics is a spin-off of the DSTL. Remember spin-offs? I just mentioned a bit earlier in the video, the same fish, a different color? Well, there you go. Okay, so I finished with this point. I want to talk to you now about David Kelly. David Kelly was a bacteriologist by training and specialized in the use of viruses to attack insect pests. In 1984, he joined the MOD, Ministry of Defense, as head of Porton Down, where he led research into ways to enhance the defense of troops in battle against biological warfare. Apparently, at Porton Down, he first met the South African doctor Wouter Bassoon, who was the head of the Project Coast, which was allegedly attempting to develop undetectable biological methods of assassination and race-specific biological weapons for the racial segregation era government of South Africa and at least one other government. And does this remind us of? I just mentioned the same thing in part 2 of this series, the Human Genome Project, which can be used as a weapon to target someone based on race. Plain and simple, the modern eugenics. Jesus Christ. No one really knows the true history of Porton Down, but we do know that they experimented on thousands of British servicemen and that it was involved in the Human Genome Project, at least to the extent that the Medical Research Council used it to store human cell lines for experimentation. Now, let's go back to the Weinbergers. They seemed to be really good friends with the next person I will mention. They even made dinner arrangements together at the tapas restaurant at the Ocean Club. They also seemed to book their holidays together, considering they were staying in nearby apartments at the Ocean Club. Dr. Julian Edward Bartram Totman is a general practitioner, a GP, from Salisbury, Wiltshire, only a few miles from the Porton Down establishment. Paul Weinberger has ties to Porton Down. So, in my view, it's pretty obvious Totman and Weinberger knew each other professionally and pretty well. It's quite possible they even planned to travel together, they even had dinner bookings together at the tapas. And we all know, every single one of us who ever had a job in our lives, we all know that we try the best that we can to find the closest jobs to home, to where we live, so we don't need to spend so much money on traveling. This is just another point I wanted to make, considering the fact that Dr. Todman lived just a few miles from the Porton Down establishment. And with this, I will make my next point. It seems that Dr. Todman had a second surgery actually within the Porton Down Ministry of Defense research establishment. But obviously, if he really did have one, there's not going to be much proof of that out there. But logically, if you think about it, you usually choose your job closest to home, isn't it? They are doctors, obviously sometimes, professionals, they do travel 20, 30, 50 miles by train, by car, or whatever, but if you have an opportunity close to home, don't you take that first? This is just how I'm thinking. And then, we also have Dr. Todman's wife, Rachel, known professionally by her maiden name, Dr. Rachel Clapton, she is also a GP in Salisbury. So you see, both of them, they live in Salisbury, they are both working in Salisbury, closest to home. The most significant, however, I think, is Todman's sister, Marisa, who is a general practitioner in Surrey. She is married to Vivek Muthu, who is the chief executive and founder member of Bayesian company, which analyzes medical research. According to Vivek's LinkedIn page, he is a health systems and life sciences consultant, entrepreneur, business strategist and medical director. He is an advisor to the Economist Intelligence Unit Healthcare, a managing director at Marivec Healthcare Consulting and non-executive director at Lamellar Biomedical Limited. Founded in 2007, Lamellar Biomedical is an innovative biotechnology company pioneering new approaches for the transfer of functional nucleic acids. Lamellar believes that its lamellasome technology will play a key role in realizing the potential of miRNAs, siRNAs, DNA, mRNAs, plasmids and other nucleic acids in development, offering the potential to revolutionize the treatment of many rare and intractable diseases. Dr. Vivek worked as a doctor in the UK National Health Service, having gained first-class honour degrees in neurophysiology and a degree in medicine and surgery from Oxford and Cambridge universities. He worked at London's Queen Square and the Hammersmith hospitals before he joined the British Medical Journal, where he helped to develop and lead a team examining the clinical value of drugs and services. After he sold Bayesian in December 2007 and integrating it into the Economist Group to develop its global healthcare practice, he stepped into a non-executive role in 2015. Vivek additionally serves as a healthcare consultant to the European Bank for Reconstruction and Development and holds non-executive and advisory positions in a number of healthcare startups. He is involved in a number of UK-based and international health and policy initiatives and regularly chairs and speaks at international summits for The Economist, for industry and for NGO and third sector participants in healthcare. Okay, it might seem like it doesn't really have any sort of relevance to what I'm talking about. But hear this next. The Economist Intelligence Unit, which acquired Bayesian, is the research and analysis division of the Economist Group. The Economist Group is a media company headquartered in London, England. It is best known as publisher of the Economist newspaper and its sister lifestyle magazine, 1843. The Economist Group specializes in international business and world affairs information. Its principal activities are in print and digital media, as well as in conferences and market intelligence. Two of the most important owners of this company are Rothschild family, a wealthy Jewish family, and the Agnelli family from Italy, the 28th largest group in the world by revenue. Vivek Muthu has been heavily involved in the controversial debate about whether the MMR jab causes autism. One of Bayesian's ongoing projects from 2007 was with the East Midlands Specialist Commissioning Group in the trials of aortic valve replacement, which of course would coincide with Gerry McCann's interests as a heart specialist. Another member of Bayesian is a Dr. Rob Cook, specialist in managing cardiovascular guidelines, who was working in Auckland, New Zealand at the same time as the McCanns were both living there. Relationships. Rob Cook earned his medical degree from Guy's Hospital in London before working in general practice in the UK and New Zealand. While enrolled in a master's degree program in public health at Auckland University in 2001, Rob became the medical director and senior project manager for the New Zealand Guidelines Group, coordinating and managing the development of cardiovascular and other guidelines. Let's not forget The McCanns denied knowing either the Todmans or the Weinbergers before their holiday in Praia da Luz, which to me seems a bit unlikely considering their similar interests and places. I understand completely that this is the medical field and of course they will have similar interests being doctors. However, there are just too many coincidences to be ignored. The Todmans with their 2 children aged 3 and 2 arrived in Praia da Luz on the 28th of April and stayed in apartment G4M, apparently just for their 2nd week. What's even worse is that Dr. Todman even came forward identifying himself as the man Jane Tanner saw on the night of Madeleine's disappearance. It seems he even went to the police station with the clothing he wore on the night of 3rd of May 2007. In October 2007, the McCanns put out an artist sketch of the Tanner man. But I don't know if someone can remember after so many years what they wore on a particular night. But anyway, I don't know. But even with the efforts put out by the Todmans, including Rachel when she was even willing to go to the media to say her husband was Tanner man, they were never contacted by Leicestershire police, who was supposed to deal with UK inquiries at the time. And the British police wasted 4 years in trying to find the Tanner man, even if Dr. Todman came forward, which is another weird thing. Anyway, it's highly unlikely that the McCann doctors and the Tapa 7 wouldn't know a doctor colleague. It turns out Gerry McCann knew Dr. Todman pretty well enough to play tennis with him, well enough to dine at the table alongside Dr. Todman in the tapas bar, well enough that the kids went to the same creche as Madeleine, and yet with all this happening, when Jane Tanner saw Todman, she didn't recognize him. Also, in Tanner's sighting, Todman was walking in the direction of Murat's house, away from his apartment. So, I don't think this was said in error by Jane Tanner. I believe she said it on purpose to divert attention away from the McCanns, of course. So far, I think there is a prior close connection between Weinberger and Todman, a close connection between both of them and the McCanns, a connection between them and Porton Down. The Weinbergers and the Todmans apparently planned to holiday together at Praia da Luz in 2007, which suggests a prior friendship and or association of some duration. Jenny Weinberger was so energetic in promoting a very suspicious alleged sighting of Madeleine, and then repeating that sighting at the specific request of Kate McCann so that it could be included in a documentary. And also Dr. Todman's wife being apparently willing to tell newspapers that her husband was Tanner man, basically ruining his reputation. So, which wife does that? Unless there's something else happening there. Moving on to another one, Brian Kennedy, the wealthy Cheshire businessman and the head of the McCann's private investigation team, which has allegedly been searching for Madeleine, invested around £1 million in a biotech venture jointly with Scottish entrepreneur and owner of the stagecoach company, Sir Brian Souter. I'm getting this funny feeling here of a movie I watched recently on Netflix, or rather some series. I know I keep making references to movies and series and episodes or shows, but I'm usually a visual learner and I learn best by watching things and rather than reading. I don't know. Yeah, I do well with pictures or movies in this case. But the only reason why I'm mentioning this is because it sounds just so familiar. A business tycoon, so this is the movie I'm talking about, right? A business tycoon has a charitable trust and his daughter is a scientist still at university. She lives with fellow students, all scientists, and they all come up with their own inventions. And this business tycoon invests in their inventions if he thinks they will be viable. even though his business is not around science. However, this business tycoon is a very good friend with a controversial scientist who does illegal experiments, and another student finds out the truth, so they kidnap her, and the scientist is wiping her memory with an experimental drug, which was not approved due to it not being safe. The business tycoon loves the idea of selling this new drug, and so he goes along with it and agrees to the experimentation on people who are kidnapped. Some die and some live. This student, after a while, she gets her memory back slowly and tries to expose them, but of course they try to kill her. Anyway, this is the long story short of the movie. I can't really remember the name now, but I'm going to try to find out. And when I edit the video, I'll just put it on the screen, the name for the series, if you want to watch as well. It's quite interesting because I talked about this before. It could be that Madeleine's death was somehow related to work in the fields of biotech or bioengineering, gene therapy, cloning, or stem cell research. These are all quite controversial, but also very profitable lines of business. I also talked about Madeleine maybe being the result of some sort of a genetic experiment connected with her having been created via in vitro fertilization treatment, which was done apparently at a groundbreaking Dutch hospital, perhaps cloned in some way. All of this is, of course, speculation. There's no proof whatsoever that this can be the case, but a lot of things don't make sense, and there are so many connections. Something bigger must have happened. There's also another thing that popped through my mind. What if Kate or Gerry Mccann were involved in a secretive project and Madeleine McCann was just a byproduct of their work? As in, perhaps they didn't think that their work was ethical, but they were forced to continue by being blackmailed? Madeleine was part of the blackmailing, so that they can see what happens if they don't want to carry on doing the unethical work, and in trying not to lose the twins as well, they just carry on doing it. Maybe that's why Kate shouted they took her. Maybe that's why they were escorted from the airport in the UK to their home, not to protect them from the general public, but to follow them and to make sure they are doing what they are told. It's just a thought really, but what do you guys think? Please let me know in the comments below. Do you see it as this being a possibility that Madeleine was kidnapped or taken away from the McCanns, so the McCanns would continue their work out of fear for the twins' safety as well? Anyway, let me know in the comments below. Anyway, the next points are quite valid here. One of the first people to offer large rewards for anybody finding Madeleine was by Sir Richard Branson, also a major investor in various biotech projects. You know him, Virgin and now Space. Also, two doctors who went on holiday the exact same week as the McCanns and their friends, Dr. Paul Weinberger and Dr. Julian Todman, both had very close links with the secretive government biological warfare establishment at Porton Down, near Salisbury, where Dr. Todman allegedly had a successful GP practice. And another person of interest on the same holiday was Mr. Philip Edmonds, a director of the world's largest steel empire, Stemcore, a company which also has interests in the biotech field. Stemcore was founded in 1951 as the London subsidiary of German trading company Coutinho, Caro & Co. The company was founded by Herbert Coutinho and the German immigrant Hans Oppenheimer, each taking half a stake in the business. The German company was sold to J. McDermott in 1984, and in 1985 Hans Oppenheimer died, passing his 50% ownership of the company to his children. In 1987, Ralph Oppenheimer negotiated his family's purchase of the remaining 50% of the company. This is when the Oppenheimer family gains full control of Stemcore. When the deal was completed in February 1988, the London company name was changed to Stemcore. According to his genealogy, Ralph Oppenheimer's sister is Dame Margaret Eve Hodge and Hannah Edmonds, among other siblings. Margaret and the late Sir Henry Hodge were really close friends of Tony and Gerry Blair. It seems the Hodges persuaded the Blairs to move to their street in Islington in the 90s, and several of the strategy meetings in the early days of New Labour took place at the Hodges' house. As reported by the Daily Telegraph and so many media outlets, Tony Blair is the godfather of one of Rupert Murdoch's daughters. Rupert Murdoch is the owner of News of the World, The Sun, The Times, and so on. Basically the most influential newspapers in the UK. Then of course, we also have the story of Rebecca Brooks, working for News of the World, her involvement in the Find Madeleine Fund. She was also part of the Leveson inquiry. So many things really. In 1994, after the death of Joe Richardson, Margaret Hodge won the Barking by-election. As a new MP, she co-nominated the candidature of Tony Blair after the sudden death of John Smith, and in 1998 she became a junior minister. I don't know why I find Smith's death very convenient, don't you think? I mean, I read that he actually died of a heart attack, but I don't know. What do you guys think of John Smith's death? Has it not been for his death, Tony Blair wouldn't get what he did? I'm not accusing anybody of anything here, don't get me wrong, I'm just, to that light bulb there, the light bulb moment. It smells fishy. It really does. You know how I like to say, when it smells fishy, usually it's fishy. Anyway, moving on. Margaret Hodge was the UK politician who has been accused of covering up the child abuse scandal in the London borough of Islington. She was constantly linked to care home, child sex abuse and murder rings of British children in the BBC Islington, Jersey, when she was head of Islington Council and their subsequent cover-up. When she was chairman of the Public Accounts Committee, as it turns out, it was discovered her family company Stemcore paid only 0.01% tax on £2.1 billion of business generated in the UK. And this is how the rich get richer. It also seems that Lizzie Watson, a senior BBC News editor, is Margaret Hodge's daughter. Mr. Philip Martin Edmonds is Margaret Hodge's nephew. Born on 31st of August 1962, according to a genealogy website, Philip Edmonds married Rena Heisenberg, and they have 3 boys, all of whom were out with Philip in Praia da Luz for the week the McCanns were there. Now, when you visit the website of Stemcore.com, the world's largest steel company, with a turnover measured in billions, Philip Edmonds' name doesn't come up as one of the directors. But Philip Martin Edmonds worked in Stemcore Risk Management AG, the financial services, Stemcore Financial Services Limited, SSS Super Alloys Limited, Stemcore Europe Limited, Stemcore Trading Services Limited as a company director, a steel trader. Between 1991 and 2008, he was a director in Stemcore Financial Services Limited, and at the same time he was also a director of Stemcore Trading Services Limited, and other directors in this company included Ralph David Oppenheimer. Between 2000 and 2007, Philip Edmonds was a director of Stemcore Europe Limited. Philip's uncle, Ralph Oppenheimer, is also on the Stemcore board. So, Stemcore is basically an Oppenheimer family business. All this has come about because Philip's father, Herbert Edmonds, made a wise choice in marrying into the Oppenheimer family. Hannah Oppenheimer was the oldest of 5 children of Hans Oppenheimer and his wife Lisbeth Hollischer, an Austrian Jewess. Hans was born in Stuttgart, Germany, but fled to Alexandria in the mid-1930s as Hitler's anti-Semitic Nazi regime was stepping up its persecution of Jews in the lead-up to World War II. His first 4 children, including Hannah and of course her sister Margaret Eve Hodge, previously Oppenheimer, were all born in Alexandria, Egypt, Hodge being born on 8th of September 1944 in Alexandria, Hannah 3 years later in Orpington, Kent, UK. In the 1980s, Margaret Hodge married Sir Henry Hodge, her second marriage, and became known as Margaret Hodge. Lady Hodge inherited a lot of the Oppenheimer fortune and is one of Britain's wealthiest women, but with all her fortune, she claimed excessive parliamentary expenses from the British taxpayers. Because, why is that? The rich get richer and greedier. Philip's father and mother, Herbert and Hannah Edmonds, lived in Bromley, Kent. Hannah Oppenheimer's father, Hans, was the son of Salomon Oppenheimer, born in 1871 in Ohringen, West Germany. And in turn, Salomon is the son of Abraham Oppenheimer, who in turn was the son of another Abraham Oppenheimer from one of the many branches of this powerful German Jewish family. Oh my God, guys! This is so much information. I'm sorry, I really wish I would be able to make these videos in a less complex way, but it's impossible. I've been trying to plan and think about it and, you know, try to see how I can actually split the videos in in smaller videos so they are not so complex and with so much information. But unfortunately, when you are trying to make a connection, you really do have to say everything before you manage to reach the connection, because there are so many different points you see from one company to another, a director to another, and so on and so on, and you keep on going like a chain, never-ending chain. Okay, let's carry on. I think I had too much coffee today, I don't know. Yeah, you can tell. So there we have it. This series covers everything from Porton Down experiments to Madeleine Mccann and people connected to her and Porton Down. If there is anything that you think I missed, please do let me know in the comments below. Anyway, for now, please give this video a like. It's free, it doesn't cost anything. And the more thumbs up I get on the video, the higher the engagement and the more people get to see it. So again, guys, thank you so much for watching. Please let me know everything you think about the video and the series in the comment section below. For now, stay safe and take care, everyone. Bye!